What is the value of an influencer? Most Web3 projects hire a key influencer or series of influencers in order to boost the marketing profile of their project. Now, that could mean a celebrity, social media personality with many followers, well-known cryptocurrency executive, etc. But how does that process work? And what marketing impact do influencers really have? My next guest, Zach Hirsch, has 1.5 million followers on Instagram and spends time with some of the biggest celebrities in the world, all at the ripe old age of 20. Zach, welcome to the Daily Drop.
What's happening?
Well, I'm glad you can make it, bro. So let's just start here. And I'm not really sure how you define yourself, but do you consider yourself an influencer?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't something that was intentional right at the beginning. I aspired to be a legitimate sports handicapper, right? That's how I came into the business, and I wanted to be a sports analyst. And then got some influencer friends and started to make some videos, and that's just kind of how the cookie crumbled.
Yeah, look, and I appreciate your perspective because you're really right in the middle of it. And look, we know that it's pretty common for Web3 projects to align with social media influencers. So why does this happen? Like from like an insider point of view?
Yeah, I think that it's super important to align yourself with influencers, right? And of course, the Web3 audience is a younger crowd, right? People like me who have been kind of in the metaverse Web3 space for a minute, right? We had the Travis Scott Fortnite concert with 20 million people. We watched Ready Player One. I personally used to play VR chat, stuff like that. So I think the influencers of today are appealing to people of my age and younger that you're really going to target in Web3. So I think that's where it comes from, is Gen Z and the audience that influencers can attract.
And do you think that influencers will be at the center of marketing campaigns long term? Like this is always going to be the way?
Yeah. I think this is just the beginning, and we're going to see influencers' potential unlocked more and more, right? We're seeing them seep into so many different avenues and spaces. When you turn on your TV, they're in Super Bowl commercials. If you tune into a boxing match, they're fighting each other. And I think we're going to continue to see the evolution of influencers for sure.
Okay. And I know that Gen Z really values influencers. Like these are really the new celebrities. Like you're essentially like a celebrity for your generation, right? Like why is that?
Yeah, I think it's because if you look at young kids, Gen Z coming up today, their dream job, the number one, is YouTuber, right? It's no longer to get an audience, to get attention, to get in the limelight, you have to be a mainstream actor, right? They see an avenue to being a YouTuber, and I think influencers are more relatable.
So okay, so explain that to me a little bit because I am a bit older than you. I'm more than double your age actually. So I didn't grow up with like YouTubers, right? Now obviously like I watch YouTube all the time now, but growing up on YouTube, like what is that? Is that kind of, do you believe there's like a trust? You're getting your information as you grow up from YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. And you get a different look into their lives, right? You feel like you're actually a part of it if they're doing a daily vlog or you're tuning into a Twitch stream, right? The other avenue that I think kids are starting to want to get involved in more and more. It's just a different perspective looking into an influencer's life as compared to a rapper or a singer. It's not as personable.
Right. Although it is interesting, right? Because if you think about sort of rappers, singers, artists, right? That was, when I was growing up, that was really like the thing to be, like that was what a celebrity is. But now it's interesting that you say now the goal is to be a YouTuber, right? It seems like YouTubers like the right people. I mean, you have 1.5 million Instagram followers. Like how many people have that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think before, the only time you would see your favorite musician, it would be like on an MTV music video, right? Or an edition of Cribs or whatever it is. Rather than now, I think musicians and athletes are starting to realize that they have to be influencers as well. And you see them branching out to YouTube and TikTok and trying to expand to that audience.
Do you find that like I don't know I don't know if we can even differentiate between legit celebrities and social media celebrities, but do you think that there is a bit of a tension between those two camps?
I think a little bit, but I think they're starting to realize the talent and the unique abilities that influencers have, right? I mean, they're not all just taking pictures and flaunting, right? I mean, there's legitimate talents and skills that they have and possess and are showing off to the world, right? Like, I didn't start off posting pictures of myself in a mirror or, taking pool selfies. I was doing a legitimate sports pics and that expanded into interviews for people I was giving pics to. So I think a lot of influencers coming up now have legitimate skills and talents that should be recognized.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it's sort of like if you can have a message that gets a large audience, that's essentially your job. You know what? Let's go to break, but I want to learn more about what you're doing. I just think it's fascinating. We're back on the Daily Drop. Okay, so Zach, it's interesting because you really live this sort of like really interesting life. You know, I mean, in a way, you actually are a celebrity, but you also have relationships with celebrities, people like Jake Paul, Floyd Mayweather, Jadakiss. How did you get into the celebrity space?
Yeah, and I think I grew up around Floyd, right? For an example, I mean, I grew up in the boxing world. Growing up, my dad had a boxing gym, and a lot of young up and coming champions came through there, from your Terrence Crawfords, your Teofimo Lopez's, etc. But I think in the sort of influencer realm, I would say when I was about 17, Milton, who's currently coaching Logan Paul, brought me into camp with Logan and brought me around Jake and Logan, and I got to kind of get a unique insight into their boxing lives, and I was interested in getting attached to them and asking for money or anything like that. I was really interested in being a part of their boxing journey. And through that, I got to interview them and then kind of get exposed to a whole different world, made some videos, stuff like that. So I would say that's how the initial breakthrough into the influence world started. And then my partner, Jadakiss, got introduced to me. We were both on the Triller Versus. We were both part of the broadcast. So I think he saw that. And then someone told me about him. And then it was his idea to do a sports show. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, speaking of Jadakiss, so you interview sports celebrities on a podcast with Jadakiss, right? So,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about what you guys do on the podcast. How exactly did that happen? Because it's one thing to like meet somebody or know somebody, but it's another thing to go into business with them and launch a podcast with them.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Kiss in the Mist, and it's presented by World Star and brought to you by BetOnline.ag. And yeah, Jada is my partner, and we've been able to do some great things. And we also just spoke at a crypto convention together about Mozverse. So yeah, we're really partners in a lot of different business ventures. And yeah, it's a fantastic relationship, and we're really able to bounce off each other and have a great chemistry on camera. And we've interviewed a variety of celebrities, from French Montana to Tyreek Hill to Antonio Brown to Brandon Marshall. A wide variety for sure.
Do you have like a particular focus? Like, is it like football, boxing, basketball, or all across the board?
Well, the great thing about Jadakiss, and people know this about me, right? I'm an expert in pretty much every sport, but so is Jada. You know, Jada is a big fan of a lot of different sports, so we've been able to cover a lot of different ones, and we want to keep expanding, right? So far, it's been mostly football, basketball, mixed martial arts, boxing, but I would love to do a tennis interview, you know? I think that would be sick, or a WWE interview or something like that. So yeah, I think the main focus of the podcast is sports, culture, and hip hop.
Okay, so what is your end game then for this podcast, right? Is it more just you're just trying to grow it? Do you see it turning into like a television show, or like what's your vision for it?
Yeah, I think it can go in so many different directions, right? I could see it being on Showtime and being like a similar show to The Shop, or I could see it being a staple for a barstool type show, where we keep expanding on World Star and really seep into the landscape of both hip hop and sports, right? But I think long term, the goal is to get the biggest and best guests and be a place where athletes, influencers, and musicians feel comfortable expressing themselves and feel like it's a space where they can be themselves and really talk like they would with their friends, right? We're a very laid back podcast. We're not asking super hard hitting questions, right? We're really trying to have a real conversation.
It's interesting because you really do see this sort of merging of celebrity culture and Web3 culture coming together for this larger ecosystem. How do they work together? We talked about it a bit before, but do you think it's just becoming one big sort of like celebrity culture, and influencers are the next generation of celebrities, and people are like, hey, welcome?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, I wouldn't even say the next, I'd say they already are, right? I mean, the TikTok invasion is a little bit over, but for a while, those were the biggest celebrities on the planet. It seemed like they were everywhere. They were used for every promotional tool, right? You turn on the Super Bowl and Ninja is in the Super Bowl commercial. It's crazy. So I think that they already are the current generation of celebrities, and it's going to keep expanding.
It's interesting. We were talking before a little bit about tension, but I guess for me, it's just sort of interesting, right? Like, do you find that like normal audience members, like people listening to your podcast or whatever, are they like more like, oh my God, it's Jadakiss, and then there's you, or is it like you're the draw, and then he, or is it just kind of depends on the person?
I would say that Jada is the bigger draw of the two. I would say my role is to keep the conversation flowing and make sure that the person that we're doing with is engaged and to bring my vast sports knowledge. But I'd say my partner Kiss is bringing in most of the people. That's my guy.
Yeah, and then you've moved. You're a co-founder of Mozverse, and I want to know more about that. We're gonna get into that after the break. We'll do more of a deep dive, but pretty interesting that you're really making big moves too into the business space as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been entrepreneurial. I took the Entrepreneurship Essentials course for Harvard University,
You know what?
and before.
Let's pause. Let's pause a little bit. We'll get right into it after the break. Welcome back to the Daily Drop. I'm here with Zach Hirsch. He's doing everything. He's rolling with celebrities. He kind of is a celebrity. He's a social media influencer. He's got a huge podcast. But also, you are an entrepreneur. You are a co-founder of Mozverse. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Mozverse is a Web3 solution company, right? And we do so many things, right? And I would say the main thing that we're currently focusing on is one, that our Mozverse console and site allows users to make their very own virtual world in just a few short clicks, right? To where you have your own virtual world, you control your neighbors, you control the physics of it, stuff like that. I think that's intrinsically valuable in the sense that a lot of people on the other metaverses and virtual worlds, right? You have to share your plots of land. You can't control your neighbors. You don't control the people around you, right? You're not able to moderate. So I think that's something that we're offering that's definitely different. And then I'm also super excited that we're going to launch Live Stadium, which is going to be really awesome. And that's going to be a pathway for concerts and sports events alike, right? Where the audio drives the visual and the visual drives the audio, meaning at a concert and you hear a big bass drop, you're going to see the visual effects. Or at a football game, when you see a big time tackle, right, you're going to be able to hear it amplified to where it's not only like you're there in person, but it's even better. So I'm really excited to help revolutionize the entertainment space and the Web3 space together.
I mean, it's pretty amazing what you're doing. You're 20 years old. That's unbelievable. But okay, I do want to know a little bit about the mechanics of it. Okay, so you're this big influencer. You're working with celebrities, but now also you're an entrepreneur. So how does entrepreneurship and social media work together?
Yeah, and I think it works together seamlessly, right? And social media is a driver of promotion and marketing and advertising, right? And that's really, as an entrepreneur and as a company, that's going to be one of your strongest things. That's going to be one of the things that you're most focused on, right? And originally, 2 years ago, I got the idea of Mozverse with my partner Danny Moslin, the Wizard of Moz. And about 6 months later, I was interviewing Logan Paul, and he had told me to get into NFTs, right? So that's when we started to get into NFTs as well. So influencers have kind of driven Mozverse's products and ideas from the very beginning.
Do you think that being, like a pretty significant social media influencer, do you think that creates like business opportunities for you?
Yeah, I think it does. And it unlocks doors, right? Unlocks doors and connections through people that I've met and been able to interact with and work with. And I think for Live Stadium, my role as an influencer and someone that's been on the ground floor, right? I've been on stage of the versus battles. I've been on the field of football games. I've been on the court where I could trip a referee, like Jay-Z said, right? And having that experience has allowed me to be able to, I think, offer and mold the best experience possible for Live Stadium, right? To where we can offer a great experience. Like you're not only there in person, like I get to be, but even better one, which is my goal at Mozverse and Live Stadium, et cetera.
Look, Mozverse sounds pretty cool. What other business ventures do you have moving forward in addition to Mozverse?
Yeah, Mozverse is definitely the main priority, but I also have a clothing brand, Against Hate. We've done kind of a soft launch so far, right? We've got guys like Kodak Black, Bobby Shmurda, French Montana, Jadakiss, Scott Storch pictured in it. But yeah, Against Hate is something I'm strong about. I think we need to bridge the gap and help unify the people around us. There's a lot of hate and division, and I'm hoping to help end that.
Okay, I gotta ask you this question, like, because you're doing like so many things, and even like, yeah, you're 20. I mean, you could be 60. You're doing so many things. Like, how do you find all the energy to just do all these different initiatives and podcasts? I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think people don't realize I'm also in college full time, right? I'm entering my junior year at Lynn University, so I've got that as well. And I would say before I start any venture, before I get into it, I make sure I have a great foundation, right? So before I got into Mozverse and my entrepreneurial kind of ventures, I took an entrepreneurship essentials course at Harvard University, right? And I finished top of the class, and that was something that I think was very valuable in my business experience. It made it a lot easier and less time consuming. And before I got into sports picking and everything like that, I attended the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference when with guys like Mike Leach, Larry Fitzgerald, et cetera, right? And I was able to learn from them and really soak it in to where the catching up process isn't there. I'm ready to jump into the field, right? And I would suggest that for anyone, if they're getting into something, do your background research, get as immersed as possible before you get into the field, right? Do your research. And I think that's really important, and that'll help save you on time.
You're doing all this while being a full-time student?
Yeah, I attend Lynn University. I've been dean's list my freshman and sophomore years, and I'm currently enrolled in my junior year. Sports management.
So I'm just now aware that I've been wasting my entire life. It's fine. That's just for me. Look, Zach, you're really impressive. I wish we had more time. I'm going to get you for one more segment, but I want to know more about what you're going to do for the future, dude, because you're certainly a leader, and I can't wait to chat more with Zach Hirsch here on The Daily Drop. We're back on The Daily Drop with Zach Hirsch, 20 years old. All right, dude, you're 20 years old. You've done more than I have my whole life, which hurts, but is also amazing. Do you see your future in Web3?
I see my future in Web3, and I see everyone's future in Web3. I see every corporation having their own virtual world. I see every corporation having Web3 initiatives, and I think that the companies and brands and influencers that migrate to Web3 sooner are going to be more successful in the long run for sure. I think the companies that are starting now are going to have a big leg up in the future because Web3 is the future, and that's what's going to drive the world soon.
Well, then I know how you're going to answer the next question, but I guess let's get into why, right? So why do you think Web3 is going to become mainstream?
Yeah, I think the Generation Z is waking up that, the people want ownership and autonomy, right? When they're dealing with things, and, it shouldn't be so controlled and like the way it is right now, right? It's so controlled. It's so, you don't have any say over it, right? And I think that we realize that, the future is a decentralized and democratized world, especially in social media. And I think people have woken up to that, especially me and my partner Danny at Mozverse have realized that that's the future, and that's how people are going to begin to think. And then we all watched Ready Player One, right? We saw how that goes.
So let me get more into like your generation, not to be the old guy at the club, but I'm 44 years old, right? So I haven't been 20 for quite a while. I think it's really interesting because I agree, right? This is the future. But what is it like right now for a 20-year-old in terms of Web3? Is it like everybody's all about Web3, everybody's about the blockchain? Is it still, is there still like early adopters, or is that like a pretty mainstream thing for your generation?
I think crypto as a whole is pretty mainstream. I think the concept of the metaverse and Web3 I would consider myself an early adopter, even at this stage, right? And I think that our goal, and I think everyone's goal, should be to continue to spread the message and make people as aware as possible, because it's not something that's being taught in school, right? I mean, the learning of it and the teaching of it has really been through the internet and social media and things like that. So I think the more influencers talk about it, are aware of it, and promote positive things in the Web3 world, right, rather than some of the negative stuff that we've seen, I think we'll start to see a positive change for sure.
So that's interesting. So you're really differentiating between sort of the crypto part of the Web3 ecosystem and some of the other protocols.
Yeah, they're different, but they're alike as well, right? I mean, that's what's driving them, of course, right? And NFTs is how you're going to get into the meta economy and stuff like that. So in a way, they're all together, but I think that some people need a little bit more time to understand how it all flows.
Okay, so what advice would you have for the next generation, for your generation, in terms of business success?
Yeah, in terms of business success, I would say to take a page out of my book and to become as immersed in research as much as possible about your field before you enter it, right? You want to become a solidified expert before you ever say you're a part of it, right? Before any of your friends or family know you're doing it, you want to already know everything you can about it, because it'll make the process that much easier when you really begin.
And for Mozverse, where do you see Mozverse going in the future?
Yeah, I see the biggest concerts, the biggest virtual concert, the biggest sporting events being powered by Mozverse. I see us being the Shopify of Web3 or the AWS of Web3, and I see us powering so many different Web3 solutions that it's tough to keep track of.
Okay, and look, we're going to have to close. I definitely would like to get you on again, dude. You're such a fount of knowledge. Also, I mean, you're 20. You look 20, but you don't act 20. How long does this crypto winter last? You know, a lot of people are pretty, we don't know, but what do you think? People are spooked. They've lost some money. How long do you think this lasts?
I don't think we've seen our floor yet. I think it'll last a little bit longer, but I think now and in the future be a great time to get into crypto for sure. I know I am.
And I'm guessing you're all in crypto moving forward. There's no doubts whatsoever. That's the future.
Absolutely not. That's where I'm investing, and that's where my future is.
100%. Well, for Zach, I appreciate you coming. I hope I'll see you again. The marketing ecosystem has changed. That much is clear. Gen Z trusts YouTubers more than mainstream media, and that trend is only becoming more pronounced over time. But should we put our trust into individuals instead of institutions? Can a social media influencer disrupt an entire industry more than a national news network? And if individuals have that much power, how can we ensure they use it responsibly? We'll see you next time, The Daily Drop.